Welcome to the Wknd Warriors Fishing Podcast, presented by 13 Fishing Canada. Make your own luck. We are here to talk everything fishing with special guests from across the industry. Now, here is your hosts, Logan Lewis and Jesse Cadron.
We're back yet again, another episode of the Wknd Warriors Fishing Podcast. Today we have episode 93, and we'll be sitting down with one of Saskatchewan's finest conservation officers. But before we get into that, with my co-host, Jesse Cadron. How's she going?
It's going very good, Logan. Just celebrating a big Leafs win tonight. Going to Game 7, so I'm happy about that. And I'm all packed up, ready to go up north for summer guiding. How are things going with you?
Good as well. Busy, getting stuff ready here. It's kind of, the weather's not really lining up well for the Wknd Warrior that I am. It's looking not too nice here for May long. We're recording this on the 16th here, and it's not going to come out for another week. So the Leafs may or may not have been bounced by the time this episode comes out. We'll see what happens there. And May long, it's just looking chilly. I think it's like 5 degrees colder than the average that it has been for May long, and maybe some wind and rain mixed in there. We're putting in docks and lifts tomorrow morning, Saturday the 17th. So it's always fun when it's windy and rainy when you're doing that. Of
course. Definitely
makes it even more enjoyable than if it was sunny. So
you never know what you're going to get on May long for weather, eh?
No, it's quite hit and miss. Like we were having plus 30 weekends a couple weeks ago, and now we're getting this. I mean, the rain's been nice.
For sure.
Rain for a whole day, as you'll hear us kind of talk about at the start of the interview here with Scott Cossette. But not too much going on here. I got out fishing the last weekend, sold our old fishing boat to a buddy of mine and took it out, kind of showing him the ropes with that. And we went totally blind. We had no electronics on the boat. It was actually kind of nice, just kind of fished memories and went around and checked out some spots. If you haven't yet listened to episode 92 and our leeching talk, I couldn't believe it. Like, I haven't bought leeches from the store in a while, and he picked up a dozen leeches. I mean, mind you, they're always a good size, pretty good size in the store, but I think it was like $8 for 12. Ooh. And he caught 3 perch on them, and he was out. Like, it was, and I just was running Crush City and ripping wraps the whole time, and I was like, I just couldn't. Like, at least when you trap your own, there's no cost associated with every leech, right? So it doesn't hurt as much. And you might not have, like, I've got a couple messages since that episode 92, and they're like, oh, like, went out and trapped and got some, but they're not jumbos. And I'm like, well, in all honesty, like, yeah, the jumbos are sweet, nice to have, but that, like, medium to large size, if you're just going out recreationally, you're not in a tournament. I mean, they're still great for tournaments too, but lots of people love those jumbo ones, and I mean, I've used them a couple times in tournaments, a couple go arounds, and it's insane how big those ones are. But if you're going out and you're just looking to hammer walleye, like, mediums and larges are perfect for that.
You mean mediums and smalls?
Well, there's small, medium, large, jumbo.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
yeah. So,
well, and those can be what you want. Those can be what you want on a finicky day. When they're just short striking, you might want a smaller leech, and you go down to a 1/16 jig head, or just a smaller presentation. And gonna save you $8 a dozen from the store. That's wild.
Yeah, no, I couldn't believe. Like, I've seen some people popping up on Facebook here now, and like even like $6 a dozen isn't as bad, but it still hurts when anytime you have a cost associated to it.
Sure.
My buddy found a pretty good price around Regina Beach last year. He got a ton of leeches and was set for the year, and it was like $100 for his leeches for the whole year, which wasn't bad. But yeah, it's just so easy for me, not for everyone, depending on if you can't find somewhere to do it. But for me right now, it's so easy to just go out 5 minutes from the house, trap some leeches, and you're good to go. And yeah, especially Buffalo Pound, where I do lots of my fishing. The way the perch population is right there, anyone that's fished it in the last couple of years knows it's mayhem for perch there, and they're not the biggest either, and they just demolish your bait supply, especially on something like a little jig or especially the slip bobbers. Oh my goodness, just you're just feeding them at that point lots of the time. But yeah, no, I think talking about the Crush City and the Rip and Wraps there, got to talk about the presenting sponsor of the podcast, 13 Fishing, part of the Rapala Canada family. Big thank you to them, as always, for being the presenting sponsor. You can use the code Wknd Warriors, that's WKND Warriors, to save yourself 15% off the entire Rapala Canada website. I had mentioned just a couple minutes ago there that I was using Crush City baits. I was using the jerk, and I believe the smelt color. And I was also using Rip and Wrap, I don't know if there's 3 or 4 sizes. Definitely wasn't the biggest size. I think it was like if there's 3, it was the smallest. Okay. Actually, I want to say there's 4 sizes, and it would be the second smallest, not like the smallest one that I use ice fishing. But yeah, they were crushing that, like inhaling it, and mostly on the drop too. It was when my line was going slack is when they were hitting it too. And like I said, no electronics, so I don't know if they were suspended or if they were just chasing or what. But it was exciting. I love that bite. I find it more often in the spring than anything. I'm tossing those, especially in shallow, and when they crush that, it's a fun fight. So
that's awesome.
Resulted in some walleye, some pike. I was also using a ripstop. That disappeared after its second pike. Landed 2, and then there's a couple casts later. Jerk, go to jerk again. There's nothing there. I was like, okay, there goes $16 or whatever. But
shucks.
Yeah. You got anything for the 13 fishing? Or you want to rate the SWF?
Yeah, I didn't.
There you go. No, that's perfect. The SWF, Saskatchewan Wildlife Federation, another sponsor of the podcast. Their raffle that Jesse had mentioned just concluded. The 4 winners, right? 3 prizes in the 50-50.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was just announced. If you did buy tickets, go check out their social medias. I'm sure you were text, called, or emailed as well if you did win. But they announced all of that there. There was actually, I read it today, a really good write-up on Discover Moose Jaw about the walleye hatchery that's out at Buffalo Pound.
Okay.
It was pretty interesting. I think I hopefully get all the facts right, but basically it was when it first started, it was just your typical like ice fishing trailer that you see out on the lake now from like the 70s, that style, and they had the setup in there. They had milked some fish, got some eggs from Diefenbaker population, and then started up this hatchery. And I think it's like they usually average is it like a 60-something% hatch rate and everything there, so much higher than what's out in the wild. And then they started, basically, I think that's one of 2 walleye hatcheries that supply the whole province with all of their fish. Like it's a couple million fry that they're hatching in there, and some of that started going back into Diefenbaker, and obviously goes, I think 10% of it goes back into Buffalo Pound, but that's where they do all of their milking and egg gathering from there. And then they ended up buying a upgraded trailer from the Ministry of Environment there. I don't know how long ago that was. Upgrade their system, and then it said thanks to some generous donations and everything like that and volunteer work, they were able to keep that going. And now they've got a really nice setup that's right out at Buffalo Pound on the north side of the lake, I believe, and keeping the walleye stocking going in the province. So that was pretty sweet, and that's obviously in connection with the SWF. If you haven't listened to the Daryl Crabb episode, I don't know how many episodes ago that was, probably around a year ago now, something along those lines. But
sounds about right.
Yeah, and that's obviously the fish cultivation station is part of the SWF as well, and so all that kind of goes hand in hand there. But you can also get your membership. I just picked up mine, my dad's, and my cousin's, and comes with awesome magazine. Like I always mentioned, love the magazine, land access, some insurance. Is there anything else with that? I guess the entries into the big game awards.
Yeah, that's pretty much all you get. I was going to mention about the magazine, the Outdoor Canada subscription you get. They just had a really good article about catch and release practices for salmon, I think was their study.
Okay.
It was either this most recent magazine or the one prior, the spring maybe. But anyways, super good read. Just they tagged the salmon and tracked their mortality rates from catch and release and how they handled it. And it was like super cool because it's all these ideas that we think we know about catch and release and how to handle fish safely, but they actually put some science to it. And yeah, I found it fantastic and got that from a free subscription from having membership through Wildlife Federation. So
are you doing things correctly? Were your thoughts correct?
My thoughts were
you should drop them or you shouldn't?
You should drop them in the water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Not on the boat.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, we kind of wanted to keep this quick here. I'm not sure if it was quick. We've been recording for a bit before we actually started doing the intro here, but I think that's enough from us in this episode. As you saw from the title and the description, we have Scott Cossette on. He is married to Shayna Hamilton, who was actually our very first guest of the podcast back in episode 1, and they live all the way up in northern Saskatchewan. Conservation officer. It was awesome getting to talk to him again. I haven't seen him for a long time. We chat online every once in a while, but I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. It's actually, forgot to mention off the top, this is going to be part 1. I think it was like an hour and a half, hour 45 recording.
Yeah, it was a big one, hour 45, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so we'll break this one down. This part 1 is going to have mostly conservation talk, lots of the problems that they run into with certain rules that are being broken, and then part 2 we'll go more into some stories and listener questions, I think is how I'm going to be editing that one up. So you have anything before we head into this episode?
Scott's just a very highly informative guy. He's got some great stories, and I'm sure you're going to find out after listening, he's just a good guy, good-spirited, well-mannered man. So, I think you guys are in for a treat with this one, and should be a good couple episodes here.
Yeah, so we'll head right into this one, and we'll see you on the other side in the outro. Well, this is a full circle moment here for the Wknd Warriors Fishing Podcast for a couple of reasons. One, the first one being is basically since the start of the podcast, I wanted to get a conservation officer onto the pod, so that's the first reason. Second reason being that Scott here is married to, at the time, it was Shayna Hamilton, who was our very first guest on the podcast. Now, obviously, Shayna Cossette, but this is full circle. Definitely excited to have you on. How's it going, Scott?
I'm doing pretty good, Logan.
That's good. You were just working today, right?
Yeah, I was, yeah.
Okay, awesome. So we were sitting down here. It was a rainy day in Saskatchewan, at least where I was. I don't know if it rained where either of you were today, but it was just like the first full day of rain that I can remember in a long time, where it rained from the time we woke up to still raining now when we're recording this tonight. But perfect time to sit down and do this. So I guess for everyone listening that doesn't know you want to kind of introduce yourself, what you do, how you got into it, all that good stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Scott Cossette. I'm originally from Regina, and about 5.5 years ago, I decided to pursue getting into the field of conservation officer work. It was something I had kind of always been on the radar that I wanted to do, and it seemed like there was always something else that was, I guess, maybe just a little bit quicker at my finger grasp to get into. And one day finally decided to take the plunge and shoot towards what I actually wanted to do with my life. And it's been pretty awesome. I went to school in Prince Albert in 2019, graduated in 2021, and did 1 year of seasonal work. And since then, I've been in Stony Rapids, Saskatchewan for the last 2.5 years.
Nice. That's a big change from Regina, hey?
Yeah. Oh, you have no idea.
You jumped just total opposite corner.
Yeah.
Southeast and northwest.
Oh, yeah. It's, for a lot of reasons, it's just not even the same province. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I mean, the way that, like, if for anyone who follows Shayna, especially because she's got the YouTube channels and her Instagram and stuff, the way that you guys like to live, it's perfect up there for you guys, and just getting to be in that environment all the time. And then also getting to work in that. I mean, that's got to be pretty sweet, hey?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. It's just you're outside all the time. Like, it's we've got I mean, yeah, like the river, we've got the Fond du Lac River right in front. Literally throw a rock and hit it from my house here, and out the back we've got forest, crown land, and hiking trails right out our back door. So I mean, yeah, we're basically just in the forest. So it's pretty cool up here.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I guess kind of to round that out, why exactly did you get into being a CO? Like, it's just something you always wanted to do?
So I think honestly, when I was around 15 or 16, my stepdad had kind of thrown the idea my way. I had always had a passion for the outdoors. Grew up fishing, as a lot of people do in this province, and I didn't get into hunting until I was in my early 20s. But yeah, just that passion for the outdoors, and it was kind of just a suggestion for something to look at when I was in high school. And when I was, I guess in my early 20s, I had made a couple friends who actually were conservation officers, and that was the other pull too. It was that, so for a little while I was working at the co-op refinery in Regina, and I'd be messaging a buddy of mine, and I'd be like, "Oh, what are you doing?" It's like, "Oh, I'm 6 a.m. I'm at the refinery. We do our rounds in a bus. There's like 8 of us in there, and we go do our work." And he's like, "Oh, I'm hopping in a float plane, heading to an outfitter's to do some checks." And it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay, one of these sounds a little more fun right now.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
So, the refinery work was fine. It was what it was. But no, ultimately it was, having someone that I was closer with that did this work for a few years, it gave me a better insight to the career itself also, because I was able to bounce any question I had off of him in terms of what it's like and how it works, not just the job that you go do, but just like, I guess what the lifestyle is like too, because not everyone's sitting in an office in Regina, Saskatoon, PA. Like, there's offices in every remote part of Saskatchewan, as I have learned now. So so after a few years went by, it was just time for me to make that push and to actually go to school for it.
Right. Well, I can totally understand that. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast before, but after I finished my university degree in business, majoring in accounting, I did that for a little bit, and then I was actually accepted to the PA school there
I remember
to start
that.
SEALs. And it wasn't, I don't know when I ended up deciding like to give up my seat and not go, because I didn't end up doing it, but it was like, I was for sure, it was like the spring and it was going to be starting that fall. I was still in, and I was like, this kind of what I wanted to do. And then as you saw, like how you'd moved and everything like that, I don't know if it was as much that or what it was, why I didn't end up just taking the leap. It's still something that I think would be pretty sweet to do. But yeah, I was right there about to dip my toes into the water as well. So I can totally understand why you'd want to take that path. I don't know if you ever had anything like that, Jesse, that you'd be interested in that?
Oh, it's been on my mind actually, probably since being 14 or 15, same thing, like similar reason. I love fishing and hunting, and it's like, oh, well, you want a job that you can be out in the woods while you're working? Conservation officer. So definitely something that was on my brain for a bit, and just never, the path never went there. And I guess I settled for a fishing guide. And
yeah, that works. That works as well. And we've got some listener questions that we're going to get to kind of at the end here. So if you had asked a question, it's most likely going to be answered later on. But kind of lots of us, especially people listening, have a general idea about what a conservation officer does, but maybe give a bit more of an in-depth look into like what a day or a week looks like for you that maybe people wouldn't totally think that you're also doing as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So I think I'll probably have to answer this kind of in two parts. Just my week to week up here in the north can differ quite a bit from what the day-to-day in the south might look like. My day-to-day up here in Stony Rapids versus someone in Saskatoon is quite a bit different. It's just So like COs in Saskatoon or Regina, city centers, there's definitely an aspect of urban conservation officer work where you're dealing with moose in town. It's a huge one in Saskatoon, right? And it certain times of the year it almost seems like it's weekly or at least a couple times a month where they're getting a moose in town. Definitely not something we deal with up here. So my week to week kind of changes throughout the season. So in the summer we are a lot more focused on our outfitters up here. We also, with being the most northern part of the province that you can just drive to, we get a lot of contractors that come through town, and they're either making their way to Fond du Lac, Uranium City, Kamsel Portage. Those are a few small, one's a reserve and a couple small towns on the north side of the river. But then there's also a lot of exploration up here. So we do get people coming through here that will monitor the local fishing spots too, just like any officer would in the south in the summer. You check your shore fishing spots. For us, we spend a lot more time on the boats going to check our outfitters, or by float plane, or bigger trips if we're heading out to Athabasca. It's usually not a day trip, it's usually a couple days. And then so we've got our bear season on right now, although we haven't even seen a bear yet. I think it was like 2 weeks ago we were still averaging like -10.
Okay.
Dang.
Like we're nowhere near as warm as the south right now, but once the bears decide to wake up, we'll have our bear season to monitor here. And we're out, bear season, we're typically out where we know which outfitters in the areas in our area have bear clients, and so we're monitoring or looking for bear baits, just figuring out where clients might be, and then checking shore fishermen. We have spots right in town, so usually if we have something out of town we'll swing through town, hit the shore fishing spots, and then we'll head out of town and do what we're doing for the day.
Right.
Come fall hunting season, we don't get a lot of regulated hunters up here from the south that come up to hunt. We've got a moose season up here. That's really about it that we have, aside from bear. And then in the winter, with our outfitters gone, we primarily monitor the caribou hunting season up here. So we monitor. There's about 170 kilometer snowmobile trail north of here that goes to the Northwest Territories, and we monitor that trail. It's kind of the main highway that guys use for caribou hunting. So so our summer to winter is quite different. Whereas in the south, like I said, it's kind of a two-part answer there. In the summer, like guys right now with the south now being open, the south being open on the 5th, and I think Central opens today, being the 15th. So, day to day for those conservation officers, they're definitely going to be geared quite heavily towards fishing right now, as you guys would know who spend time on the water too. And there's always, it seems like in the south, there's always animal calls. And it's for injured deer or moose. It might not even be a vehicle collision. It could be like a sick animal that they deal with too, or right now there's that bird influenza that's coming through the province, and so I know a lot of guys in the south are dealing with that, with calls regarding flocks of birds that are found dead and stuff like that. So,
or the bear that was in Regina.
Yeah, I knew there was a big one. I'm like, there was something down south that just happened. Why am I forgetting it? Yeah. Bear in Regina. Yeah, that, considering where that bear was found, that was just wild because he made it into like the middle of the city. So it's kind of a neat one, but yeah. yeah, I kind of hope that answers your question, but.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that we don't want to give away your whole playbook. We don't want people to be knowing what you're doing out there. And when you're talking about that and then checking the fishermen, I totally slipped my mind that I actually got checked by you up at Otter Lake, right, or at Mississippi.
Yeah,
I had totally forgot about that. I think it must have been the start of one of our family trips up there, and I would always get up at like 2 or 3 in the morning and drive up. So I'm starting fishing by like 9, like leave Saskatoon, stay at some friends there, and then go up and be fishing around 9. And so I was coming to bring the boat back onto the trailer when everyone was showing up, kind of help get the place ready. And I'm like, oh, there's COs at the dock. I'm like, whatever. It's not an issue for me, right? I'm not trying to do anything wrong, so it didn't matter. And then you come walking out to the end of the dock. I was like, oh, this is awesome. Because you were stationed in La Ronge at the time, right?
Yeah, that's when I was seasonal.
Yeah.
So that would have been,
Yeah,
I think that was summer of 22. Would that make sense?
Yeah. 20. What year did I think it was my last year before I went guiding. So whatever that was, 4, 3, it might have been 21.
Could have been 21. I graduated 21.
Okay.
Could have been that summer too. Yeah.
Right.
That would make sense too.
Okay. Yeah, and that's something too when you mention seasonal. That's kind of, especially after you graduate, you usually do like 1 to 2 years at least seasonal, right?
Yeah, so there's been a big shift just from talking to some of the more senior officers. These days it seems that most officers are getting through seasonal into full-time positions within like 1 to 3 years. Whereas back in, I think, probably the 90s, it was normal if you put in 8 to 10 years of seasonal before you were considered.
Wow.
And at one time, so even that friend of mine who went through, he was conservation officer. He's probably about 10 years in now. During his time when he was accepted for full time, I think there were only about 5 people in his troop from Saskatchewan, and that was considered normal size, I believe, for quite a while. Now the last 3 years, the average class size going through is, I want to say, averaging about 13. I think my troop size there was 15, and I think this year there's like 11, roughly, maybe 13 again. So the number of full-time officers going through in the last few years has doubled compared to what it was. So,
oh, that's good though. That's I always say I'm happy to get checked or to see him out there.
Yeah,
like because I can seem to go and fishing or hunting in like common areas. I can seem to go like a year or 2 without seeing anyone, and then all of a sudden it's like I get like 1 a month kind of thing, and I'm like, well, I'm always happy to see them out. So obviously they've increased the number of positions then as well, based on the amount of people that are also going through the schooling.
It's not even so much an increase of positions. I think it's just the amount of people retiring these days.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing right now. And then, I mean, at the same time, along with retirements, you always have people that leave for other opportunities here and there. So they always have to fill those positions too. So,
right.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
So a pretty good time to get into conservation officer right now if you're listening to this, because the band is there, right? Like your spot's going to be accepted pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Especially if you decide that you're going to go to the border with the Northwest Territories pretty well.
There's probably not many people jumping in line to be officed up there, I guess. But do you get much of a choice for where you get stationed, or do you got to build some like seniority before you can kind of pick and choose a little bit?
Yeah, so it's based on seniority. So your years of service with government. There's a few positions that count towards that. Not only conservation officer work, and so when you're going through your full-time training, you'll get a list of open offices around the province, and then they essentially just go through the checklist, and if you're at the top of the list for seniority, you get first pick over that list, and then they work their way down the list. So the year that I had gone through, Stony Rapids was a full-time spot. So typically when you come out of the academy, there's usually always some term spots. They'll put a couple extra people through training because there might not be 13 open positions next week, but they know that within the next few months there's going to be, or the next 6 months there's going to be. So they'll put officers in term positions in the busier locations, and then when spots open up, those term position officers can then put their name in for one of those full-time spots. So I was actually, being that I only had 1 year of seasonal work, I would have or should have had a term position coming out of full-time training. But no one wanted to come to Stony Rapids. And it being a full-time spot, I took that opportunity to get in full-time versus starting term. The other thing too, I wasn't unfamiliar with Stony. I had come up here with my family about 5 years previous to going to school. We came up here specifically for a Arctic grayling fishing trip. And so I was already familiar with what this place offered, what it looked like, that kind of thing. So it wasn't a complete shot in the dark when it was like, hey, I'm going to Stony and I have no idea what to expect. But yeah, so it helped a lot knowing where I was going. So
yeah, you knew a little bit what you were walking into.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah, and the grayling fishing there looks insane.
Oh,
from yours and Shane and stuff.
Oh yeah. No, the grayling fishing's always pretty solid.
Yeah. So you'd be.
That's where the provincial record was caught, isn't it? It's Fond du Lac River. I'm pretty sure.
I'm not sure.
Scott doesn't chase records.
Yeah, clearly.
No, if a fish bites, I'm good.
Yeah. So you'd be in the spring there. You'd probably be like, what species are you getting in the river there? Like anything?
In the spring here, right in front of town, like within 100 yards, you can get pike, walleye, lake trout, whitefish.
Okay. I see.
Yeah, there's grayling always in front of town, but yeah, in spring specifically, the lake trout are in front also. So
nice.
Yeah,
that'd be exciting, not knowing what it's going to be every time there's a bite.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
Spin the wheel.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty sweet. And so, kind of getting back into the job a bit there. Obviously, this would be considered a remote region, right? And like you had mentioned, you're probably not going out on opening day like maybe some of the guys down here, and it's checking the colors and unloading your gun when you're driving, like kind of more of those kind of things. Are you building up like bigger investigations typically, as far as like you're not getting like kind of the daily smaller tickets as much? Would that be fair to say?
No, not entirely. So are you talking hunting right now specifically?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, hunting
So
works,
our fall season, even though we might not have as many regulated hunters that are up here, we have a lot of First Nations hunters that are up here, and they're out there hitting the trails, chicken hunting just as hard as any other area. So we're still out there just making sure that there's still some safety rules that they have to follow. Obviously, First Nations hunting, they're not bound by all the same regulations that regulated hunters are. So one, you mentioned like colors. So like First Nations hunters don't have to wear colors. But you still have to make sure firearms are unloaded while they're on ATVs or in a vehicle. Like it's the bigger safety things are still very much watched for. Chicken hunting up here is very popular through October. So yeah, we're still daily every morning we're out checking the trails, and then usually after that we might have files on the go too, work on those in the afternoon or something. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit of both. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just quickly, for anyone that's not from Saskatchewan, like maybe Alberta, or just not into the hunting regulations, when you're saying you're checking for colors, that's implying the blaze orange.
Yeah,
the
the
white
blaze
suit.
Good clarification.
Yeah,
It's
sorry.
like to a non-hunter, that probably means nothing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, so for a regulated hunter, I guess chicken hunting probably wouldn't be a great example, just because you don't have to wear your blaze orange. But typically when we're talking about hunting in the province, you're always talking about safety, and so especially with big game hunting, you have to wear orange, as referred to as just by colors. So around here, when we're out checking hunters, we're making sure that people are staying safe when they're out there and such. So
yeah, and I guess that's part of the rules that maybe people forget, is a lot of the rules do revolve just around safety, not as much as the animal or limits, stuff like that necessarily. A lot of it is just safety around there. So that's kind of something even I forgot about there too.
Yeah, 100%.
Those rules are in place for a reason, and I mean, I was going to say it'd be maybe fair to say there's more people doing it down here, but you've also got up there more centralized population, I guess, right? Like you're more all in the one area, so it could be just as safety would be just as important up there, especially I'm guessing in the treat areas and stuff. It's almost more helpful when you can see a lot farther, right? And see everything beyond then, or beyond your target and stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I know I've definitely heard from locals who've talked about, like, maybe more so in the past, like, I don't chicken hunt anymore. Too many times I've been out walking the bush, and you hear that little whistling noise of a bullet kind of flying through the woods, and you don't know where it came from. And so I mean, your line of sight is huge. There's still obviously a lot of safety aspects, and like you said, maybe a little bit more dangerous being in the woods versus just in the open prairies where you have grass up to your knees.
Right.
But yeah.
Cool. No, that's all fair there. And as far as we can just focus more, I guess, on your area there, but what would be your most common issues that you are running into, or that you're finding?
Seasonally, so I guess with our outfitters running into clients who come up with no angling licenses, with some hunting stuff in the fall, we're still running into hunters who are driving around on ATVs with a loaded firearm, or in vehicles. We have, I mean, really, we only have one road in and out of here. But yeah, on the only highway, we're still run into people who have a loaded firearm in their vehicle. So in the winter, more specifically, so we don't have much of an ice fishing season up here. We have a few locals in town, but I'm, like, growing up in Regina, I'm used to an ice fishing season where you go out onto the lake and you've got a village, right? Like, you go to Last Mountain or you go to Buffalo Pound, and you can set up your shack, and within eyesight you can see 50, 60 other shacks. Up here it's a lot different. There might be there's maybe one or two different families that are in town here, and it's like, we know the son is going out fishing and he's going by himself. So there's just a lot less regulated fishermen up here in the winter. But some of the more common stuff we run into in the winter is more around the caribou harvesting. So just issues with that the band has with hunters bringing alcohol on their hunting trips and stuff. It's very frowned upon within the culture. So those are a lot of issues that get pushed our way. So.
Is that the barren ground they're going up after? Because you said they're traveling into the Northwest Territories for that, right?
Yeah, so the barren ground will actually move their way from the Northwest Territories, and they do actually come into Saskatchewan in the winter. They'll migrate south, but it is primarily the barren ground caribou that they're going after in the winter.
Okay. And is there much commercial fishing up there?
Yeah. When guys want to commercial fish, yeah. It's a tough one because everyone wants a commercial fishing license up here. But the biggest obstacle is just how far north we are, and there's a big fuel receipt for getting your fish south to market, right? We're not in like L'Orange trying to get fish. Well, L'Orange has a fish plant right in town, so a bad example, but there's a few places throughout the province that'll accept fish. And when you're looking at commercially fishing up here and you're going to run your fish down to Prince Albert, well, you've got it's about a 980 kilometer drive roughly one way. So when you're getting roughly $4 a pound for your walleye, a lot of the guys up here, they'll try to communally send fish down in larger trucks, or taking 2 or 3 loads in a half ton or something like that to go somewhere and split the cost of their fuel to get down. Because for one person to drive his own load of fish down south, basically the money you make from your fish is covering some of your fuel, but you're not really making a whole lot after that to actually like live off of. So my first winter up here, I was told commercial fishing was busy, and I was like, okay. And I think we only had like maybe 1 or 2 people come buy a license that winter, and everyone we're talking to in town, it was just fish wasn't worth enough. This past winter was busier though. We had a lot of lakes that were being used. So I think our biggest issue that we run into with that, to kind of go back to your original question there, for commercial fishing, I think the biggest thing we see is just nets not being properly marked. So as a commercial fisherman, you just have to have your name on there, your license number associating to you and your license, just so we know who the net belongs to, especially for commercial fishing, because you're acting within a regulated business at that point. So that's probably our biggest struggle in the winter, is trying to get people to actually mark their nets. So
right. And I guess one thing too that you might deal more with than some of the guys further south, like where I am, would be trapping as well, hey?
Yeah, we have trappings. And it's definitely not localized to here, but I feel like trapping within the province is kind of a dying sport. We do have
not worth anything.
No, I know that's always what we're hearing. We do have like a good handful of guys up here who trap really hard. They bring in some really big numbers. Mostly Martin is trapped up here. We do have a couple guys from Black Lake who trap in the Northwest Territories, and they always bring back some cool stuff. They've got some Arctic wolves usually coming back, and wolverines, lots of marten from there as well. But yeah, we don't seem to have like there isn't like hundreds of trappers up here. We have like a couple dozen, but they're pretty big trappers. They have long trap lines. So
okay,
yeah.
Have you? I guess you've been through there, but since Robertson Trading Co. closed in L'Orange, that was an awesome store for anyone that's been in there. They could vouch for that. But
yeah,
it's too bad that one closed. But that had some cool stuff in there as far as furs and everything like that too. So
yeah,
that was always a fun stop on the way up to Mississippi. I'm sure you've stopped there only just a couple times.
Oh, it's like tradition
throughout your trips. Yeah, exactly. And they had really good products there too, like as far as clothing and whatever else. And yeah, it was just always a good stop and get some A&W or KFC, and then go to Robertson Trading Co. But no, that's all pretty sweet. So I think it was, I don't know, Jess, you would have listened to it, but the episode with Caleb Watson, I think he ended his trip around Black Lake.
Yeah, he definitely did.
Like he did his moose hunt around there.
Yeah, because he was in Saskatchewan, and it wasn't far away from Black Lake, because isn't that where he brought his meat to, and then he got picked up in the trucks?
Yeah, and I think it was like some Black Lake locals that kind of helped them as far as where to go.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that sounds right.
So how far is that from you, Scott?
So Black Lake's about 20 minutes from us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's only like 20 kilometers down the road.
Oh, so not too bad at all then.
No.
There you go. Small world all the way up there. Yeah. Did you have anything else on those topics, Jesse?
As far as like common issues and stuff, not overly. I mean, that all seems. I think he did a pretty good job of going through a little hunting, a little fishing there.
Yeah, and it would be interesting almost to have you on here, Scott, and then also have someone that is like Regina, Moose Jaw area, and just see that, like, if you could do like a chart of common issues, a chart of this, chart of that, and see how much it differs. Because I'm sure, like, you could obviously spend a whole day going out and just checking Regina Beach at Last Mountain, right? Like, not even cover that big of an area, but being so busy out there and running into other things. But yeah, I think we kind of covered that enough, and I know that's obviously a big part of the job. But when we watch those, like Northwood Law and stuff like that, and watch those at the cabin, mom's always like, I couldn't stand people lying to me, like always lying to me all the time. So I kind of wanted to ask you, like, how often have you kind of, we'll just use like the example, an easy example. It doesn't have to be exactly how you were, but say you saw someone using 2 lines in the summer that's only allowed to be using 1. You saw it, and now you're going to go and approach them. Like, how often are people just trying to explain it away, and you're already thinking, I know that you're already 100% like done kind of thing? So like, how often does something like that happen?
Probably more often than the general public might realize. Everyone always seems to have a justifiable reason as to why they're knowingly breaking the rules. I had one last summer. I was down in La Ronge area, and this guy wasn't trying to. Well, he didn't hide anything from us. He was honest, but within his honesty, he was justifying what he did. He thought it was fine, but he was running 2 lines in the summer, and his wife was in the boat with him, but she didn't have a fishing license. So at first glance, when we were approaching the boat, and there was one line being trolled out the side of the boat, and there was the other rod was bringing in a fish, and so we're like, okay, we got two lines active, and there's 2 people in the boat, thinking like, yeah, like everything should be fine here. Yeah, so we pull up and you start talking, and let them deal with their fish first, and then we check the one license, the guy who's driving the boat, and he's got his license. Then ask his wife, and she's like, oh no, I'm just hanging out for the day. I was like, okay, why do you guys have 2 lines in the water? And he's like, well, my wife's in the boat. And we're like, yeah, okay, we can see that, but you're still going to need a second license for that second line. So, his justification behind it was just there was 2 people in the boat, and he was going to run 2 lines. Definitely not trying to hide it or anything, but I can't really, off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything where someone was trying to deceive me in terms of that they weren't breaking the rules or.
Well, maybe they did, and they just did such a good job. You never caught on to it.
Well, I mean, that's a possibility too.
Hey,
that's a possibility. You can't catch everyone.
That's right. Yeah.
No, it definitely happens. We had one recently here. Actually, like a week ago. We'd gotten some intel that there was a boat that had gone out, and they were taking some people fishing. And so we're like, okay, well, this is worth looking into, because, I mean, this was on I think it was maybe the 10th. So it was worth looking into, because our fishing season up here isn't open, obviously, but we have a lot of First Nations up here, so, I mean, everything was probably fine. But, the boat came back in. There's only 2 rods in the boat. One was broken. there was 3 guys in the boat. Only one was First Nations. The other 2 were regulated fishermen. One had a fishing license, one didn't. But they claimed that they were just out there just to go out after work and just enjoy the scenery. Apparently they didn't cast a line or anything. So it's hard to tell in those situations because there's nothing you can prove. You can't prove that they had fished. All you can do is try and squeeze it out of them essentially. But you never really know. But sometimes when you wind up in those situations where you actually get to watch someone fishing for a little bit from a distance, and then you make your approach in, and then you get to ask them what they're up to, and they feed you a line of like, oh, I wasn't doing that. It's like, well, what if I told you that I watched you cast that line 3 times and then I came down? Like, oh,
I've been watching you for the last 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Then they're kind of like, okay, time to change my story. This is what was happening. Yeah. No, that would be the best feeling. I feel like when you're going in knowing that like you already know that they've been breaking the rules, and then kind of seeing how they're gonna try and explain it away, or like you said, maybe just people trying to justify the reason for it. Like I kind of always think about the spirit of a rule or a law too. Like the one I always think about is someone who's got like a really, really young kid who clearly can't do it themselves as far as fishing, we'll say, but they're still counting that towards their limit and stuff when they obviously had nothing to do with it. I'm like, I get it, because I guess am I right? You technically be within the rules. Is that right?
Yeah. So like if someone had like their young kid in the boat, that their child should be of the ability to reel in their own fish. But then there's also the aspect of that we don't have. I don't know if there's a term for it out east or something, but there's like party fishing, essentially. Like, so just because there's 2 of you in the boat doesn't mean that you can keep 8 walleye. Your limit for yourself is still your own limit. So just because there's 2 of you in the boat, if I'm out, fishing with you, Logan, if you're having a bad day and you just can't seem to keep one on the line, as I'm sure happens all the time, doesn't mean that I can keep an extra like 2 or 3 walleye just to help you out, and then you take those home at the end of the day. My limit is still my limit. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, in terms of I just had one kind of cross my mind here. I have been out on the boat before when watching a boat. There was 3 guys, and the guy in the front seemed to have a rod in his hand. He was jigging for a little bit, and then he put the rod down. And he was jigging for a little bit, and he put the rod down. And when we approached him, he didn't have an angling license, but his reason for holding the rod and jigging it was apparently he was fixing the reel for his buddy. But the line was in the water, but he was fixing it. So that was his justification that helped him get away with it, I guess. But so
he likes his high stress situation of hoping a fish doesn't bite while he's fixing it. It's like trying to get a client's bird's nest out of their bait caster that they decided they somehow know how to cast and they've never used it. And you're like, and they've whipped it out there and there's pike everywhere in a bay. You're like, please don't grab this as I'm trying to untangle this line and make it even worse or get my finger caught.
I hate, on a personal note, I hate those situations where you got 50, 60 feet of line out, or like you're jigging walleye and it's like, oh, I got this line snagged up, and it's like, oh, this is exactly when a pike is going to come through and scream off with my line when the line's wrapped around my fingers.
Or another one there, kind of a bit different, but when we were just sold our old fishing boat to a buddy this week, and we were out fishing at Buffalo, taking it out for the first trip with him, and we were casting rattle bait, stuff like that, and he sent one flying, and I don't know what happened, but the line snapped or cut, and that was like always the farthest cast is those ones that break right as you're casting it. But same idea, you just watch it fly out there, you're like, oh my god,
oh, they go on forever.
There goes $16 gone. No, that's good. I like that you're able to tell. I wasn't sure if you'd be able to kind of tell as much as the stories and stuff, but it's always interesting hearing those things that go on. And I mean, you do hear about, like me and you were talking before, and a lot of what you guys do doesn't make the news or make necessarily the headlines or whatnot. It takes a pretty big bust or something like that for it to happen. But and those are always interesting to read. Like I know some of the stuff down here, lots of the ones I've seen in the news are when there's a taxidermist that's been raided or something along those lines, and improper tagging, things like that is kind of what seems to be the more popular one. But then, like, do you run into as much issues with in the outfitting side of things as far as limits? Like I know like a big one down here that you see a lot about is the waste or limits to do with bird hunting with waterfowl. Do you run into much with the hunting side or fishing side of thing and limits?
Not really limits. So we don't have guided bird hunting up here.
Right.
But as for most of our outfitters, they'll still do their shore lunches and such, but it's pretty rare that someone's actually taking fish out. The only time, I guess the only time we get to really check regulated fishermen for keeping quotas, there's a couple mines that are south of here that we'll go do mine checks on. We check the freezers, to be more specific. So they'll have they have a lot of regulated fishermen that work at the mines. They do their 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out kind of thing, and we'll go in periodically and check freezers to make sure that they're following quotas. Yeah. So for example, the one mine, it's on Waterbury Lake, and it's got a CR designation. So not only are we checking that guys aren't keeping more than 2 lake trout, but also that they're not exceeding that 65 centimeters. So
right,
the oversized limit. That's the word I was looking for. Not just the quota, but the oversized limit. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then proper transportation too, right?
Yeah. Making sure that it's packaged with skin tags, and such like that too. So.
Oh, and I think that, like, you just going back a little bit to when you said that not as many people are flying stuff out. No. I feel like that's got to be a big change from 30, 40 years ago, where it seemed like you went up there and you were filling a cooler and flying back out. I know it's probably, especially as you head more towards the border, more trophy. Why are you smiling, Jesse?
I'm not, no reason.
I thought you had something there, but yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, you hear lots of the stories back like a while ago, before I was doing any flyings and stuff. It was, you're going in there, you're bringing out, like, the main purpose of it, was a fishing trip, but you're also coming home with your limit as well. Yeah. Every trip you go on, right?
We do have, as you probably know, there are a lot of private cabin owners that have cabins throughout the north in general. During like floatplane checks, at that time we'll definitely see some fish coming out, but it seems like with the outfitters, a lot of them have this stance that clients don't take fish. They're preserving the fish populations on the lakes, and they want to keep that trophy lake. Yeah. Right.
That's nice. That's nice to hear.
Yeah, they still do their shore lunches for sure. Like right. A lot of the lakes we show up at, they're still doing their shore lunches. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, really, there's obviously no issue if guys on our end want to take fish home. That's just their lodge policy that they're not sending fish home. So,
right, and that does make a difference over a season, right? Like, what's 1 or 2 fish for a shore lunch, right? Compared to the shore lunches are still going to happen even if you're taking fish home. Yep. So kind of, you can put those to the side, but if people are whatever, I don't really keep fish. So I don't know limits. Is it 5 pike? Yep. Like if each group of 10 is taking 5 pike, well, that starts to add up pretty quick, especially keeper size pike as well. Like, we know that especially as you get further north, they don't grow as quick either. Yep. So that's a long time to kind of replenish that stock. So that's good. I had talked to I had won a fly-in trip around COVID, I think, and talking to the lodge manager. He used to be in charge of a lodge up north in Saskatchewan, and he said it was like he was doing this around the time before there was limits. And I don't know if that makes sense. Like, do you have a general idea of when angling limits came into place for fish in the province?
No, I don't.
No. Like, because he made it sound like basically, and like, he was older, so I could see it maybe being a thing, but basically made it sound like back when he was younger doing this, like there wasn't even limits. Like we like catch and release wasn't thought of as much. It was like you kept what you caught and like that. And you said it's totally changed since then, obviously, which I think is great, especially for the trophy fisheries. But yeah, no, that's something I would have been a Wild West back then. You see those black and white pictures of huge Lakers and huge pike, and it's like these got all the stuff that guys have now to catch fish and that anglers have as far as electronics and the technology and their rods and lures and line and all that. And these people were pulling up those tanks and probably not even, they're just around trolling, and there's just, I'm guessing, just a better population and size, right? But
yeah, probably also I guess depending on how back we're talking about, but there's like a lot of the northern lakes and stuff. There's it's a lot easier getting out into some of these remote locations where I would imagine. I mean, at one time the road didn't come all the way to Stony, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this road going north from La Ronge, you look at any of those lakes, when it's stopped at Points North was the furthest place. You can only imagine that the fishing north of that, only fly in, would have been better. But yeah, right. So it makes a difference when the ease of transportation and just our population and exploration and stuff like that as we're hitting the waters more and more in these northern lakes, and obviously word gets out, right? And so that puts pressure on different lakes.
That's a good point.
Yeah, no, there you have it. Part 1 of the interview with Scott Cossette of the Saskatchewan conservation episode. This is one I've wanted to do for a while. I was definitely happy to get to sit down with Scott, hear some of his stories. The last time when we talked about him checking me, I don't know if we talked about that in part 1 or 2 when he was in his seasonal work, but that was, I think, the last time I saw him in person, and that was a couple of years ago. So I know this wasn't in person, it was online, but it was nice to see a familiar face and get to catch up and then hear some of his stories on the job since he's been having more experience there. But Jesse informed me at the start when we were recording the intro for this episode, he had something to bring up, and I don't know what it is, so I think we'll head to that right now.
For sure, yeah. I'm pretty sure it's going to come up in part 1 here. You had quoted or had said that must be the best feeling, going up to someone knowing that you caught them. And I think, like, after talking with Scott, I'm sure getting to know him, the best feeling for him is walking up to people knowing that they're not breaking the law and that they're not following the rules.
Okay.
I just wanted to, bring that up for Scott's sake, because I know he didn't jump up on it to say anything about that, but
right.
I'm sure for any conservation officer, that's probably going to be their best feeling, is knowing that, hey, everything is good here. These guys are, following by the rules, and there's nothing wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's obviously the optimal outcome, I will say, in my rebuttal to this. I was more saying, like, when you do have someone doing something wrong and you're rolling up and you've already seen that they're doing it, it must be nice to be like, I've already got them dead to rights, basically.
Fair.
And
yeah.
they can't even try and explain this away. Rather than, in some of the shows when you see they're pulling up and, oh, how's it going today? What do you got for fish? Like, they're not sure. It's just a general check. Right. And you're kind of going into it not knowing. Like, I imagine it's got to feel pretty good, especially if it's someone that you've been watching for a while or building up an investigation on. It's like, we got him.
Yes, yeah. To finally be able to check that box, I guess, would be good in that sense. But I just figured.
Jesse, you must be an optimist. Ideally, no one breaks the rules. Everyone's happy and we have a good day, okay?
Exactly. Like, I've never broken the rules.
No, never. So, I mean, that every SEAL that watches you must be happy that they don't have to do anything.
Every day they see me, it's their best day ever.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we may as well even watch this guy. This guy's squeaky clean. Look at his mustache.
That's right. He's one of us.
Yeah. No. Well, that's good. I didn't know what it was going to be. That's not terrible, but yes, I think Scott would be the guy that he's in it. He does the job for the right reasons, and he's happier to find people doing what they're supposed to be doing rather than breaking any laws. So I will give you 1 point for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, 1 point.
Oh.
But yeah, do you have any rebuttal on that?
No. I mean,
you've said your piece.
I've said my piece, and I can sleep easy now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're both pretty tired, so we'll both sleep pretty easy tonight, I think. But no, we want to wrap things up here. As always, big thank you to 13 Fishing, presenting sponsor of the podcast. You can head over to the Rapala Canada website, use the code Wknd Warriors, and save yourself 15% off the entire Rapala Canada website. I'm probably going to be picking up some more of the Moon Eye jigs. Just can't get enough of those. I grabbed some of the tungsten ones recently, but it just can't have enough of those in the box. And then they've got those awesome wrap stack tackle boxes that they've come out with, and I've actually been ordering quite a bit of the ones with the foam insert. Great for jigs, trebles, like any kind of smaller stuff, rather than it just all getting in a pile and in the conventional trays. I've been running lots of those, and they're nice and skinny too. So that's kind of some of the things I've been buying lately. Are you picking up anything going into guiding season?
I should pick up some subwalks.
Yeah, those are hot. I didn't know they had a smaller size. I picked up some of those for Costa Rica this year. They're pretty nice. They're about a third to half the size of the conventional subwalk size that you'd see. So those are pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my bags are pretty full as is, so I think I'll get up there, and then we can always order some stuff up. And I'll be sure to use the code Wknd Warriors.
There you go.
Save myself some money and get her shipped up to the island.
Yeah, save yourself money on the purchase so that you can spend it on shipping.
Yeah.
I think if you go over a certain dollar value, then you're good to go. It's usually like 100 or 150, which as a guide, it's pretty easy to do that. So wanted to give a big thank you to them. I didn't have much else for this part 1 episode. Jesse's going to be heading to bear country before this episode airs, and I'll be fishing hopefully on the weekends. Got a bachelor trip in Scottsdale. It's going to take up what looks like a nice weekend here, but that should be a fun trip. And then it's getting into tournament season for myself, and then Jesse's going to be getting towards guide season. But we've got a pretty cool episode lined up after our part 2 comes out with Scott, so that'll be about a month down the line from this episode. But I think you guys are going to enjoy that one too. But in the meantime, you'll have the part 2 coming out 2 weeks from the date of release for this episode, and you'll just have to stay tuned for that one. Thank you for joining us on episode 93 today, and we'll see you in the next one.